Get ready for an unfair advantage over your competition. This is the Sales Edge podcast, where globally recognized sales expert and trainer Joe Peachy helps you sharpen your skills for booking more appointments and closing more deals. And now, here's your host, Joe Peachy.
Well, hey team, welcome back to Sales Edge. This is Joe Peachy of Peachy and Peachy. We're excited to have you back on today's show. And today, we want to give you an unfair advantage over your competition. Today, we want to help you get that competitive edge, maintain that competitive edge, generate more business. Whether you're an employee or you have your own business, there's certain things in business that you may not want to do to be successful. We're going to address some things today. I call them the 9 non-negotiables of business success. Now let's talk about what a non-negotiable is. You know, I deal with hundreds and hundreds of companies, thousands and thousands of people, and I have found something I never thought I would find when I entered this world. How many people go to work for other people and choose whether or not there's something they want to do? How many people own a business and don't do the things they need to do that's going to generate business because they don't like to do it? They don't feel comfortable doing it. You know, there are certain things in business, in life, that you just have to do. And we're going to talk about some non-negotiables today. You know, many times as I go into companies and I sit down with their management team, I sit down with the people who are over other people, or I sit down with business owners and we begin to sketch out where they want to go. We begin to get an idea of the type of business they're looking to have. Well, from there, I tend to say, okay, what are the accountability standards? Now, there's a lot of methodologies to this. I call them non-negotiables. In the book Traction, they call them rocks. But there are certain things that are accountability measures that you're going to have. You know, as we're going on and on throughout this series together, we're going to be talking about measuring things, measuring the right things, and having accountability standards. So I always like to sit down. I do this in my own business, and I look at what makes a business grow, what makes a business stop, what it is that we're going to have to get done, and a time frame for those things. And, I was in a company just the other day. I hired into a company I've been working with for years, and they asked me to coach some of their people. And the common denominator for both the people I was coaching, these were great people. They were extremely talented. They were very ambitious. But when we started to sit down and look at the actual accountability measures, the very things, the most important things that they would have to do to take the company to the next level, to take their own careers to the next level, those were the things they were negotiating with. Those were the things they didn't want to do. They were doing things on feelings. They were doing things on emotion. They were looking at, it's funny because my wife loved the Kentucky Derby and she studied horses. I don't know why she studied horses, but she did. And a good horse, understands racing. You know, the jockey is very, very important. But she found a story of a horse where the jockey fell off the horse. And despite this, the horse ran the race, the lead changed, but the horse won the race because he knew where the finish line was. I want you to look at your business and your career, the position that you hold right now. And I'd like to see if you could list some of the things you're responsible for. If you were to pick those accountability standards, if you were to sit there and say, these are the very things that I have to accomplish, kind of like, to be more direct, what are they paying you to do? And what are you paying yourself to do? So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be really looking into how you can measure your non-negotiables, what it is that you're going to have to do to take your business to the next level. And I will tell you, in a very systematic approach to this, really looking at how to do this, I've come up with a model. And my model is the 9 non-negotiables. So as we're looking at the 9 non-negotiables of your business, let's see if you can relate, and let's see if this lines up with how it can help you get to the next level. I think the first thing we have to decide on, whether it's growing our own business, growing our own career, working in a department, is what is it that you're looking to gain as an end result? In other words, these actions that you don't want to do or want to do, what is the end result of those actions? I think we have to start with the end in mind. I call that clarity. For the first non-negotiable, I will tell you where we need to work is gaining clarity. Now, I will tell you that there's 100 million people that teach on clarity out there, and they probably all know what they're doing, but it's been my experience. This is solely my experience. Very few people have really located a systematic approach to getting down to what is clarity in their professional and personal life. The first stage of creating clarity is, what is it that you want as an end result? Now, most people, and again, this is not being critical of anybody, okay? But the fact of the matter is, most people are very general here. They'll say, well, I want to be successful. I'd like to get to the next level. I would recommend in answering that first question, be very clear and tie a tangible result to it. For example, I want to get it to the next level. What does the next level mean? Is there a number you can put on that? Can you put a numeric value on that? If you can't measure something, if there can't be a metric, it's going to be very hard to see if you ever arrive there. In measuring end result, I would say, if you can't measure it, then that's not the answer to the first question, which is, what is it that you want? Okay? For example, a good measuring stick in business is, so how much revenue do you want to bring in? A next great measuring stick is, what do you want to make? This is how much you're bringing in, and what do you want to make personally? Because unless you're gaining some personal results from this, you may get tired along the way, because the end result, we all have to be rewarded for efforts. Isn't that true? And so to be rewarded for an effort, you have to have a measuring stick. So I like to start, every December when we whiteboard our business, the first thing on the top of the board is, so how much money do we want to make next year? Not how many clients do we want, not anything about personal growth. That will become later, but really we put that number on there. So we're really looking to get very, very, very intense about that answer. Now, I'm going to also share something with you. Most people feel very uncomfortable with this because they say, well, I don't work for money. Folks, that's great. I don't work for money either, but it is my measuring stick. We do have to eat. We do have to pay mortgages. We do have to take care of our children and grandchildren. It's not why you do it, but is the end result going to get you what you need to satisfy other things? So in looking at what it is you want, I want you to look at it two ways. I want you to put down the metric of long-term and then something short-term. Believe it or not, I measure my business. I measure end result every day, every week, every month, every year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Now, I can tell you this is kind of intense, and this can make you uncomfortable because if you don't hit your numbers, be careful, don't tie your numbers into feeling like a failure. It's just a measuring stick. It'll be a metric for what do you have to do next. Now, the second thing under clarity, now that you've determined what it is you want, you have to determine your timeline. When do you want to hit that number? Now, for some of you, this is a very uncomfortable thing because anytime you put a timeline or deadline on things, you may say, but I feel pressure. When I was in with a company the other day, and we were talking about what they wanted to accomplish, they were really good at this. They had some real numbers, and we wrote them down. I said, well, when do we want to hit these metrics? And they kind of looked at me and they go, well, we really don't want to put pressure on anybody here. I said, don't mistake pressure with a timeline. A timeline is a guidepost. A timeline will help you determine, are you doing all the right activities? Are you doing the right thing? Here's something else. This podcast is about growth. It's about sales. It's about business development. Folks, sales, business development is predicated on timelines. It is absolutely imperative that we tie timelines into everything we do. So now, if you're sitting there writing this down, the first step of clarity, once again, is what? What is it that I want? If we can create a number there, we have a metric. Next is, when do I want to accomplish this? 2011, I went back and I looked at a number of really great proposals that went out of Peachy and looked at them, and I said, why did these things never go to contract? The people answered all the right questions. We met all the expectations. They vetted us. They believed beyond a shadow of a doubt we were the company that would help them get to the next level. But they never went to contract. And what I realized, what I could never nail down with the client, what they could never nail down was that timeline. They really never sunk it in their mind. They were never able to verbalize, Joe, this is what we want, and this is when we want this to happen. The when, the timeline, is a catalyst for movement. And so I would recommend you also spend some time with, when do you want this to happen? Everything I do is benchmarked. Every morning, Joe, what do you want out of this morning? What do you want out of this day? Okay? When do you want this to happen? I mean, right now, I have a goal tomorrow to close X amount of business. Now, that doesn't mean if tomorrow night it didn't happen, I'm a failure. It was just a benchmark. Most importantly, I will tell you, the most important, and what I believe is the most neglected, okay? This is where the rubber meets the road. Why do you want it? So we know the what. We know the when. But now we're dealing with the why. And the why is what makes this thing emotional. The why is the gasoline. The why is the absolute fulcrum for movement, and yet we'll spend the least amount of time thinking about, why do I want that? And there's so many great books and speakers on the topic of why, but yet if I ask clients, why do you want that? They tend not to want to put the answer down. And I will tell you, if you know the right why, this is the key. This is the secret. This is absolutely the icing on the cake for this podcast. Once you determine the next few things we're going to have to discuss, which is the benchmarks and the hows, so to speak, you'll know the why is right if you don't negotiate with the non-negotiable. If I know what I want, I know when I want it, and I know why I want it, then outside of lack of integrity, if everything lines up integrity-wise, there's nothing I won't do to have that happen, okay? Which means nothing is negotiable. The rocks, or the non-negotiables, the things that people don't feel comfortable doing, are no longer negotiable. The why absolutely overcomes the obstacles, the non-negotiating, all of the things that I don't really like to do that, And I'm going to tell you, I've been doing what I'm doing here in the sales world and training and speaking since 1992. And I will tell you the majority of people will negotiate with the non-negotiables because they just don't like to do it. And yet, if the why was real, if they really knew why they were doing what they were doing, there'd be less negotiables. So, as I sat with this company and we listed the accountability measures and we listed the absolute what, when, and why, then when I went in to coach their people, we had a platform to start at. Now, let me give you a little bit of information. Please feel free to send me any emails to joe@PICIandpici.com. That's my email, but in the tagline, put Sales Edge. So I'll know these questions that you may send me are for the Sales Edge, okay? Feel free to go onto our website, joe@PICIandpici.com. Please link up with me on LinkedIn, Joe Peachy. Please, LinkedIn is now about 31% of our lead generation for excellent clients. It's become a tremendous tool. And so as we wrap this up, I want you to be thinking about a few things. Number one, let's take this to you, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your business. Can you write down, beyond a shadow of a doubt, right now, what it is you want? What it is you want as an end result. Can you write that down? Do so. Can you write down right now timelines, deadlines, when you would absolutely want these things to happen? Write those down. And now I want you to write 3 absolute, beyond the shadow of a doubt, why. Why is it that you want that? What is it that you want that you would work day and night for? Okay? That the clock is no longer important. I don't like the phone. If you're in sales and you won't pick up that phone, your why is not big enough, because the why will definitely generate the energy you need to execute. And there will be no non-negotiables, and you'll find your business at a better place. This is Joe Peachy, and this is the Sales Edge. Thanks for stopping in. We'll see you at our next podcast. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening. New episodes will air each Tuesday and Thursday, so make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a 5-star review. The Sales Edge is sponsored by Peachy & Peachy Incorporated, a firm which provides training, consulting, and keynote presentations, empowering corporations and individuals to attract and retain quality clients for higher revenues and growth. Make more money in sales. Speak with Joe in person by calling 407-947-2590 or visit www.peachyandpeachy.com. Spelled PICIANDPICI.com.